Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to Crypto Talk with Brianna and Scott. I'm Scott. Hi, Brianna. How you doing today?
Hey Scott, I'm fantastic. Hello everyone. Thanks for being here today. And I'm excited to share my articles today. I'm going to bring a little bit about Bitcoin to the moon. And
Okay.
no, I'm not talking about the typical Bitcoin to the moon. I'm talking about literal Bitcoin to the literal moon. We're going to talk about that. It's a treasure hunt, if you will. Secondly, a little bit about, we're all well aware of the mainstream stance behind crypto, and we have people such as Elizabeth Warren, who we brought up last week. I'm not going to go into her anymore, other than just stating that she's building an anti crypto army. She released that over this last week, which I personally find to be quite hilarious, but to each their own. And, she's very passionate, she's very intense. Um, Also, another reason why I feel like marijuana should be legalized for people who really need it. Zoom out and fill it out a little bit. Okay. Sorry about that, but you don't have to agree. But how much Bitcoin does the US government own? We're going to look into that and what they're
Oh,
doing
good.
with it. So that's what I'm going to bring to the table today. Scott, what do you have for us?
Good, good, good. Oh, I've got a little bit about gold and Bitcoin tying up. So maybe Bitcoin moving away from the stock market, maybe tying itself to gold in these times, which might make sense. I've got the little trick that every Apple has on it since 2018. There's a little Easter egg that nobody knew about. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about, some Powell statements that are just kind of funny. They're funny to bring up and then easily to refute. So we'll bring up a little bit of that. I have quite a lengthy article about what regulators still don't get about crypto. And again, easy sort of rebuttal. So if I have time, we might bring that up, and then we'll just leave it at that. So I think that will be plenty. We'll see if we can get to that. So yeah, let's hop right in. Oh, but before we do, your shirt is cool. I did. Everybody should see that cryptozoology, right? And tell them what that. And it's the Yeti. And what does it really mean? What is cryptozoology?
So, cryptozoology is the study of searching for animals who may not be real.
That may, yeah, I like
Basically, that's
that
the term.
may exist. They may exist. May or may
They
not.
may exist. Yes.
Yes. Oh,
Yes.
I have an animal. I have my snake shirt on today. I have no idea what this means or how. I was in a store. I needed a T-shirt. I grabbed the first one I could find, and now it's my favorite shirt.
I love that shirt. I like
Okay,
it.
I shouldn't really bring this up, but I just have to now because you're the one that turned me on to this, and I feel kind of guilty now because I got mine and poor Brianna hasn't gotten hers yet. So you guys know what this is, right? I mean, you know what this is. Let's see. Yeah, and let's see. I will do the first one. I will eat the first one on camera. Bitcoin in orange tastes so good. Bitcoin PEZ dispenser. Brianna brought this up
You
last
know,
week. I was so excited. And I went out. You get these on Walmart, people. There's only 30,000 of them. Get them. How cool is that? A Bitcoin PEZ dispenser. I'm just so excited and geeky about that. All right. We shall move on.
I'm
All
glad you
right.
flaunt it. And you know what? Eat one of those a day and like put it out there. Like Bitcoin to the moon. Bitcoin to the moon.
Every time
Okay.
I eat
Uh,
a Bitcoin PEZ, my Bitcoin's going to go up by $200. I'll
there
just
you
say that.
go. Yeah. There you go.
All right,
And
you're up. Let's see.
okay,
You ready to go? Let's put you on
yeah, we're
screen
gonna
here. I
go
think
straight
this
to
is
the
it. Oh,
moon right now. So let me know when we're
all
there.
right, we're there.
Okay. So here we are. Bitcoin up for grabs on the moon. SpaceX lunar crush to send crypto to the lunar surface. I love this.
That's crazy.
Um, and it's another reason why I wore my shirt today, was for this article.
Nice.
So, Lunar Crush has stated that in the fall of this year, it will send a private key to a Bitcoin wallet holding 62 Bitcoins to the moon via SpaceX rocket. And the CEO states that the purpose is to inspire people to establish networks that will unlock a new era of exploration. He also states that it's like Willy Wonka's golden ticket for the Web3 era, and we couldn't be more excited to see how it all unfolds. I have to agree. I think that sounds incredibly exciting. So the company guarantees the safety of the wallet, which includes around 1.7 million in Bitcoin at the current price of the coin, because not even the employees will know the code, and the stakes can be raised because the wallet is public, so anybody can throw cash into it, which makes it
Wow.
extra exciting. The Bitcoin bounty is codenamed Nakamoto One.
Yeah, love it.
There we have Elon going to the moon very soon. And to find this,
Leave it to Elon to have like a meme sort of funny going to the moon and then really do it.
it's so fitting, so fitting.
Yeah.
To find the 62 Bitcoin, you'll be will be like going on a treasure hunt, and it's a once in a lifetime chance for crypto and treasure hunters to share a common interest. Launch of the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket carrying the rover and its cryptocurrency haul is scheduled for June, and the rover will be left in the hands of any interested extraterrestrial crypto seekers after its mission is complete. So, hey, you never know. Maybe we'll have uh, Bigfoot going to the moon.
There you go. Go Bigfoot.
The other statement that was put out here: when you put out a seemingly unachievable goal, the innovation that happens can be incredible. Our goal is to inspire people to build communities that will unlock a new era of exploration. I absolutely love that statement, that energy, that inspiration for people to lead and innovate. I wish that was more. I wish we had that more on just all of our mainstream was more pushing that innovation. And then Dr. Forrest Mann, the chief strategy officer at Lunar Outpost, claims that seemingly fantastic ideas can actually lead to discoveries of previously uncharted territory beyond human consciousness, which is also very cool. Future generations will look to us as pioneers of interplanetary exploration and adventure, he said. So what are your thoughts on this, Scott?
Great. Awesome. Awesome article. I can't wait to now watch the lift off. So, yeah, and maybe, I'm going to get to the moon and find that 62 Bitcoin someday.
Right?
Maybe.
I know. It's exciting.
I don't know.
I hope that
I
we
like
get
it.
to see some of the inner workings of how these people start to, like, when people do come out of the woodworks and start to try to make this happen. I hope we get to see how they go about this.
Yeah. Fun. All right, cool. We got our friend Sandy here says hi. You all need to be more like Sandy, and if when you come on and listen to us, you got to say hi. See, because Sandy knows streaming protocol. When the friends come on, they just say hi. Makes us all feel warm and fuzzy inside. So thanks, Sandy, and so be like Sandy. Say hi to us, even if you're on the
Sandy.
replay. Just comment and say hi. Watch the replay. Love the show. Can't wait to go to the moon with Elon. Whatever. All right, I'm going to pop over to mine here and talk about this. Apple hid the Bitcoin white paper in Macs. And this is just silly and funny. Basically, yes, in a Mac, since 2018, if you go to some little weird place, there's the Bitcoin white paper is embedded in here. It's like an Easter egg somewhere. I don't know. I haven't actually tried it, but you can see the little animated GIF there. Shows how you do it. So I think that's pretty funny. So some think it was an employee gone rogue that put the Bitcoin white paper in all devices as their final act. Some think Tim Cook could be Satoshi. That's it. I like that one even better. Tim Satoshi Cook. Okay, I think that's all that we needed to talk about that one. Let me see. What else do we got here? I'll do one more, and then we'll go back to yours. Okay, yeah. Here's one. Yeah, digital gold. Digital gold and gold, right? So we've all heard by now, if you're into crypto, that Bitcoin is like digital gold. And what we're seeing is that from this article's perspective, it says the doom looming over the U.S. economy. People are hanging out in gold and Bitcoin, and it's not that. What's the word? I mean, that kind of makes sense, right? And we've seen that when we had the banking crisis. That boom, people moved into Bitcoin, and it's interesting because I didn't know what was going to happen, during that whole crisis thing. Of course, that's my first thought during this banking crisis was, oh, maybe my Bitcoin will go up. I mean, people should look at Bitcoin. This is the first time that we've had a banking crisis where we've had an alternative. We've had banking crises all the time, but not since Bitcoin and crypto has been around. So it was interesting. It did go up a little bit, but it hasn't shot to the moon because of it. But it is being correlated to gold now, and both gold is way up now, and so it's the beginning of more people at least having that thought process now, and they have options. They have Bitcoin or gold or both or whatever. So I think that is interesting and good. Let me see if there's something else in here. This is the world woke up to the incredibly challenging tightrope facing policymakers and realized that the risk of fiscal or monetary policy error was high. Yeah, and that's the other thing too. It's just there's a lot of stuff going on right now, right? And we've got the economy, we've got recession, inflation's still high. So I'll tell you, Brianna, for me, what's interesting about this is that I am guessing that 5 years ago, if this same thing was happening, I'd be scared, nervous, and worried about it. I'd be worried about everything because it's just a lot of doom and gloom out there and a lot of unknown. But I don't feel like that at all, and I really think it has a lot to do with being in crypto. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I really like how you painted that picture because it just kind of captures the whole essence of it. It's a security of something that we can have ownership of that lies outside of what we thought was all kind of before 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Yeah, it's interesting. So this was just another comment they had is that what we're seeing now is full on stagflation narrative triggered by the economic data this week. And so this is a new article from Axios, and I had to look up the word stagflation to really, and I just plopped it in here. Economic cycle characterized by slow growth, high unemployment rate, and high inflation. That's the key thing here because we've had slow economic cycles before. We've had unemployment before, but we've never had, well, obviously we have. I think in the 70s there was stagflation, but since then I don't think we've really had it. And so it's the worst of the worst, because everything, even sometimes inflation doesn't get there and you have one of these things, but when you have all three of them, that's when it's scary. So I don't know. I haven't really heard this. I haven't heard anybody say we are in stagflation, and I don't know what the calculation of that is, but we'll see that. We'll see what happens. And again, just bottom line is that we have this option now, Bitcoin and crypto, and I just feel this sense of hope and a sense of I have options. I guess I just don't feel like. And that's the key thing. I think before this, I felt that. I felt like, oh, well, there's nothing I can do. I have no control. I'm just going to get crushed by whatever society's laying down on me. And yet I don't have like millions of dollars in crypto. I still have my 401k and everything in traditional finance. So it's not like the reality, like if something really terrible happened tomorrow, I'd be hurting just like everyone else. But I don't feel like that. I feel like I have the option. I feel like I could, start moving more and more into crypto, and I am, and I have some in there. So it's more of just this mental viewpoint really than even reality, because it's like, I don't have millions of dollars in Bitcoin that would save me if something happened tomorrow. But knowing that I have the option makes me feel good.
Totally agree. Yeah, totally agree. And even if I can add to that, really, just when we're
Hmm.
even talking about the Bitcoin and gold and that diversification in asset classes, a couple of years ago, and even maybe last year, 2 years ago, there was like a full on war of like Bitcoin, no gold, and now it's like, oh, we can have both. It's just
Right.
this. It's come together. It's that perspective shift. So yeah, I like that.
And I haven't divested into gold either. I mean, I've thought about it. I thought about buying what I think you had mentioned, digital gold, or what'd you bring up? Digital diamonds a
Oh
couple of
yeah,
weeks
yeah,
ago.
the digital diamonds, the tokenized diamonds. Yes.
Hmm. And tokenized
Yeah.
gold.
Hmm.
I kind of really like that idea of tokenized gold, because then you kind of have the best of both worlds, because it's on the blockchain. It's tokenized. It's on the it's on the blockchain. Whereas if I go buy, however you buy gold certificates or whatever it is, they're going to be held by a bank or something. Those certificates, or the actual gold. Whereas in the blockchain, yeah, the actual gold, it's backed up by actual gold stored somewhere, but I've got it on the blockchain.
Hmm.
That just makes me feel better, knowing that it will. No one can mess with it. They can always go to the blockchain and prove. I can prove that I own this much gold.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I've looked into gold. I don't have, if I had like a great deal of finances to be able to diversify that amount, maybe I would, because gold is the hedge, against the dollar. But even those certificates, I was actually in a meeting yesterday, and it was explained how even those certificates, they're very similar to how it is with the bank anyways. There actually is not the amount of gold backing that up in a
Right.
lot of those cases. So if everybody were to try to you'd have to, if you were the last one to try to get that, you would be out
Yeah.
in many of those cases. So unless you have the physical gold, which, you know, to me, just, yeah, I'd rather have Bitcoin personally, but for the diversification, aspect, if you're at that level, I see the
Yeah.
reasons why you would, but I would opt for Bitcoin myself personally, just because of the ease of it. And I'm just familiar with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's go back to you. What's your next article?
Okay. Okay, this was interesting. The U.S. government sells 215 million in seized Silk Road Bitcoin. Plans to dump another 1.1 billion.
Yeah,
So
this is interesting. I be interesting to unpack this, because there's implications from this that are, I think, interesting. So let's check it out.
I'm curious to hear what you think of this. So, according to court documents filed today, this was a couple of days ago, the Fed sold the crypto earlier this month. So they made over $215 million on this. The crypto in question came from the Silk Road marketplace, hacker James Zong, who confessed to stealing it, and then the cops took it in a historic seizure back in November. They're now selling this Bitcoin, and they still have 41,490 Bitcoins, or $1.1 billion worth, to get rid of, the filing said. And I think that that's all I had highlighted. The rest of this article goes into just the different seizures of Bitcoin that the government has done over the past few years, and why they have all of this storage. But I find this interesting, and this is my view on it, and I'm curious to hear yours too, Scott. But we have the government who seizes this hacker's earnings, I would call it as earnings of Bitcoin, but all the while they're telling us crypto is dangerous, everyone, stay away, stay away. But then they're going to turn around and they're going to sell it to us. They're going to sell it to you for their own profit, all the while, like in congruence at the same time of saying, okay, like this is very dangerous, stay away, buy ours. but also just know that we are building an anti-crypto army, and it's very dangerous. But you can buy ours here. We're going to profit off of it. We
Yeah.
still have more. We still have more to sell. So I don't know. That's just my kind of bitter view on that. I'm curious what you think.
Exactly what you just said. I couldn't have said it better. That's exactly what I thought it when I saw this. It's exactly what I thought. Like, how hypocritical can you be? And I wonder if it's just one hand doesn't know what the other hand is doing. I think there are so many inconsistencies in the way that the overall government is handling this whole crypto issue that there at one point I think I had thought, well, there was a coordinated effort, I think, with some of these banks going under, and there was a little bit of a coordinated effort to diss crypto, but I still think it's there's people all over the place with different agendas and different ideas and viewpoints, and I don't know the implications of, like, where does this go, what are they going to do with this money, but the fact that they don't even mention it, that they just, and maybe they didn't even really want anyone to know this. It's kind of interesting. I don't know if this was just something a reporter found out or whatever, because it doesn't look good, for them to do this. So yeah, this was interesting. I saw this article and I thought, wow, basically I just thought hypocrites.
Yes, yes, I agree. And same questions that I have is the timing of it. Why are they selling it now? What are they going to do with that? And also what comes to mind, over the last couple of years, we have, as we know, and we've talked about, that the US dollar is losing its place as being the world reserve currency. So we also have India and Russia and China being the biggest stockpilers of gold over the last couple of years. A lot of questions on how much the US government actually does hold in gold, whether they actually have what they say they do, because we're supposed to be the number one gold holders. But the United States hasn't until recently been buying up more gold. So I kind of wonder, are they going to buy gold with this, or what's the purpose? What is the purpose? I wish we could know, I guess, where it goes next, but that won't live on the blockchain, so we won't know.
Right. Good point. Good point. Good point. Okay. All right. Well, let's see what Mr. Powell has to say as we're sort of on that same topic. We don't want to strangle crypto innovation, but the sector is a mess. I actually don't see this actual quote in here, but he kind of basically certainly says that. And these are his quotes. It's interesting. I'm going to read these because they're his quotes. If the crypto industry was looking for a silver lining, actually this part isn't. This is the article. Silver lining in Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell's testimony at the hearing before the Senate Banking Committee on Tuesday, the best he could offer is that he's hoping there's something useful and innovative amid crypto's mayhem. We have to be open about the idea somewhere in there, this technology that can be featured in productive innovation that makes people's lives better, Powell told members of the committee. It's just interesting. We don't want to stifle innovation, he says.
There's got to be good somewhere in there.
The way he says this. He says, we've seen just a remarkable set of events in the crypto space, he said, noting that there's been quite a lot of turmoil in the past year with companies collapsing and high-profile fraud being revealed. We see in crypto activity lots of things that suggest that regulated financial institutions should be quite cautious in doing things in the crypto space. Yeah, just kind of the same old stuff, but it's just, I'm putting it out here so everybody can see exactly what he's saying. People are going to assume when they deal with something that looks like a money market fund that it has the same regulation as money market fund or a bank deposit, he said. So stablecoins need some attention in that respect. So it's just confusing the way he puts these statements, because I'm thinking through, okay, what money markets is he talking about? And then he's talking about stable coins. So I don't even know what he's really talking about here, other than kind of what I do in yield farming. I take stable coins and I pair them up with another coin in liquidity, and then I earn interest. In a way, it's like a money market or a CD. So I'm assuming that's kind of what he's talking about. with stable coins, staking stable coins, putting in yield farms, whatever. Uh, and I guess, ultimately he's right that there may be some people that don't understand it. But again, it's like the government can't protect us from everything. In fact, we don't want them to be in our face about everything. Now, I've said things that sound like both sides of this argument before, meaning that I really think that the companies like FTX and Celsius and Three Arrows Capital and all of those companies that went under last year were not crypto companies. But for some reason, the media and the government has an agenda, so I can see why they would want to call those crypto companies, but they weren't. These were financial institutions that were unregulated on all aspects. And they just sort of disguised themselves as crypto companies, but they weren't, right? They weren't exchanges. They were institutions that took people's private money through wire transfer mostly. So they weren't using the public blockchains to convert their fiat into crypto. They were just taking wire transfers. And those companies, for the most part, I don't know all the details, said, look, you give this money, we'll get you an interest rate. I doubt they were even transparent about what they were investing in. And then they would go invest those in crypto assets. That doesn't make them a crypto company. It makes them people who invested. It's like calling me a crypto company. I'm an investor, right? And I know the difference, and I'm buyer beware. I know that when I go in here that I invest this money, it's not insured. It's crypto. Who the hell is going to buy crypto right now and think it's insured by the government? Who would even do that? I mean, nobody's that stupid. Can I say that? Is that like too out there? I mean,
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it.
that's just stupid. So what's he talking about? And what do they need to regulate that for? It's like I don't know. I'm just it's just hitting me now how ridiculous this is for them to say something like that. Now, what I think they should regulate, or I don't even know what the word is, but fraudsters, guys like Sam Bankman-Fried, who it didn't matter. Sam Bankman-Fried was going to do what he did, if it was in crypto or in traditional finance or in casinos or whatever. He was going to do that, right? It just happened to be that it happened to be in crypto because it was an easy mark. Now, but there was none of this. Everybody knew. He knew what he was doing. People that invested with him knew what he was doing, meaning, well, they didn't know what he was doing, but they knew that these weren't insured investments for sure by the government, right? And so people knew that going in. So I don't know. I think that's a ridiculous view for regulators to think that they have to protect everybody from every thing that anyone would do. It's like people should be smart enough to know those things. And I get it that it happens, and we just saw actually in the banking situation where everybody knew their $250,000 was insured by the government if you're in a deposit. And yet there were trillions of dollars that were in these banks over the $250,000 level. Wow, why did that happen? That were uninsured. So it's interesting, but they knew that. I mean, these were businesses, right? They put money in the banks. They knew the government only insured 250,000. They had way more than 250,000 in there. So it was up. They are the ones that made that choice. So this kind of comes back to, and I'm a little bit on a tangent and a rant, but it's back to, okay, now should the government bail out all of those stupid people? I'm being kind of harsh today, but should they bail out people that took the risk and they knew better? It's the same kind of thing that I think this article is talking about, or some of his quotes. So
Yeah,
let's see if I can get back
I totally
here.
agree. I second that. Everything you just said.
All right, let's see. So Powell said that there's a place for stablecoins in the financial sector if they get appropriate regulation. But Powell argued that there are real concerns about permissionless public blockchains, and the reason is that they've been so susceptible to fraud, to money laundering, and all of those things. All of those things, that's his words. Like, really nice. Yeah, I mean, come on. So let's parse this out. There are real concerns about permissionless public blockchains.
So maybe can you maybe like for people who don't know what permissionless means because you're really good at explaining these things, can you kind of explain like what that means? Because for someone who doesn't know and reads, oh, permissionless, like that sounds scary.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. That's a good point because, and that's the crux of why this is such a silly statement. And so permissionless blockchains are, it's a way to transfer value from one person to the other person or from one entity to another entity without having a third party oversee it and make sure it happens. And of course, if the third party is there to make sure that that transaction gets completed or in a legal way, they also have the option then to shut down things that they don't think are good or there's something they don't believe in. They can shut it down. So basically, a permissionless public blockchain means that I can transfer value from me to you, and the government can't say if that's a good thing, bad thing, or indifferent, and nor can they control it.
right.
And so this is the essence of decentralization and the essence of what crypto really is all about. And that is nobody should have a say in how I transact with my money
Right.
other than me and the other party. And that's why this whole thing is this whole, it comes full circle. It's like, why is Powell trying to, regulate this? Now, I think there are places for regulation, but these statements are the kind of that make people in crypto just like cringe, because this isn't what he should be worrying about. He should be worrying about the fraudsters, the people that take advantage of people and commit crimes. So what is he saying? Like, if I want to transfer value to you and there's a mechanism to do it where I don't have to trust the government to do it, am I a criminal?
Right.
And or you need to protect me? No. I know I know the risk, and I also know, or I choose to use this method because you can't control me. Now, you can't protect me either. I don't think you're that good at protecting me anyway, so I don't want your protection. I don't want your control. I don't want your protection. So it's just statements like this, that like, and then he just mixes them like stable coins and permissionless, blockchains. And if you think about the alternative, which is the CBDC, a permission only digital payment system and transfer system that the government controls completely. Does anyone think that that's a good thing? Even the diehard Americans, I don't think that if you really put it in like that would be in favor of that, right? I mean, how many gun owners are going to not be happy if every purchase of a gun that they make can be tracked and the government could say, oh, nope, we're going to confiscate this because you bought a gun. Now that's kind of an extreme example, but it's interesting because I'm not a gun person. I don't like guns. But I just, and it's not like I want to have the government leave me alone, and I want to, you're gonna have to pry my gun from my dead fingers or whatever they say. It's not like that, but it's this concept of trying to meddle in places that this isn't where the problem is. I guess that's my biggest point. This is not where the problem is, and they're spending so much time, on this, and I really think it's because they feel like they dropped the ball on a lot of these, and now they're trying to play catch up. And I really think it's in the detail, unfortunately, because not everybody understands the detail of why this is so important. Because on the surface, it makes sense. Yeah, we're the U.S. government. We're there to protect you. We're here to protect you. And but if you look at the details of this, they're not really protecting us in areas that matter, or that they're spending time and effort, in my opinion, that they're not productive for the U.S., for technology, for moving forward, for staying a technology powerhouse. I mean, we're just literally shooting ourselves in the foot when it comes to technology and being on the forefront of all of this. And we're going to see what happens in 2 to 5 years. That we may be completely left alone, left in the dust when it comes to crypto, blockchain, maybe even AI technology, right? And why do these regulators want that? Why does the president want that? Why does this U.S. Administration want that? Of course, they would say they don't, but their actions are showing something different. Whew, I'm getting into it today, baby. Yeah.
Get it. It's so true. You hit that. The third party is the problem. That's the thing. That's when we say it's permissionless, that's a good thing. And that it's
Right.
They paint it in a way to where it's not, but because they can't thrive without being the third party. So, without that, they become obsolete, and they are banking off our debts. That's how they thrive. So it's it just exposes them, and they don't like it.
They don't like it.
Yeah, they don't
do
like
not
it.
like it. All right. What do you got next?
Okay, this last one here. Along the same lines, but it's just kind of interesting because then I started to kind of go down. I'm like, how much does the U.S. government actually own
Right.
in Bitcoin?
Right.
So they actually just recently surpassed. This was due to Dune data from March 27th, and the United States government has now surpassed both MicroStrategy and Tesla as one of the largest holders of Bitcoin.
Oh,
So
wow.
they have over 205,000 Bitcoin in its possession. I was stunned really by this. I did
Wow.
not know this. The figure is slightly over 1% of the current circulating supply. So according to the trackers, MicroStrategy holds 132,500 Bitcoin. I don't know if this was before the recent. I know there's a really big purchase that just happened with MicroStrategy, so I don't know if it was before that or after. So we'll have to find out. But
I don't
Tesla
know.
owns 10,000.
The I saw something today. I don't know if it's in an article that I have to share or not, but I think MicroStrategy has 1%. In fact, the article was about, wow, that's kind of dangerous to have somebody have that much. But I didn't realize this part. The government has that much or more also.
Well, and that makes me wonder, maybe that was up past, maybe that, because this is all kind of happening within the last week. So maybe MicroStrategy, I think that came after this article. Maybe they just one-upped the U.S. government. I don't know. We'll find out. I hope you
But
have that
either
article.
way, they both have close to 1%, which is interesting.
Yeah. It's crazy.
And that is crazy that the government owns that much. Now, I guess, they'll just say, well, we confiscated it. But so what? They now have that in possession. I don't know what to even speculate that they should do with that. I think they should donate it to the Satoshi Nakamoto Club or something. I don't know. It's like they should do something other than just put it in their coffers, because that's just so ironic.
Well, there's just something in me that tells me they know the value to Bitcoin.
Right.
I really think that I think this is some kind of, whether they want the people like us to know that, maybe that's not it. Maybe it's something to do with something between countries. I question that as well. Like this game of chess. And then the other, like, oh yeah, we don't care about that Bitcoin stuff. But in reality, they're like,
Right.
let's see all that we can get. And then I just wanted to touch on too, like China holds 3.9 billion worth of Bitcoin. This was actually a number from back in November. Despite the anti-crypto stance, we know that China's banned Bitcoin. I don't remember how many times, like it's in the teens, I believe, how many times they've tried to ban it. I shouldn't say they were successful because it can't be banned.
Right.
So the Chinese government also holds 6 billion worth of cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin, Ethereum, and others. So that's all very interesting. I mean, there's so many reasons why governments would want to hold it. I guess if they're looking into the potential of the citizens of the world actually like waking up to this and realizing and going moving fiat into Bitcoin, and then all of a sudden, like we rule the world.
Right.
um, if enough people did, maybe they want to have their hands on some, or maybe yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of questions in my mind over this.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. This has kind of been interesting. This whole government holding that much Bitcoin. Huh. I don't know what it means. I don't know what it means. All right. Okay. I've got an interesting article here on. I guess it's just, I don't know. When I saw this, I thought, okay, interesting. Majority of people who invest in Bitcoin inevitably lose money. This was Gizmodo, uh, a big tech magazine. So it's definitely a, a, a good tech resource company. It's not some fly by the night thing, but I want to read through some of this. Interesting. So around 3/4 of newfound Bitcoin investors have lost money when putting their funds into the great crypto game, according to this new research study done by central banks, which is interesting. So that may say something right there. But a working paper from the Bank of International Settlements released Monday looked at the crypto world from 2015 to 2022. So you've got some ups and downs in there in that time frame. This was interesting. 73 to 81% of new crypto investors inevitably lose money on their initial investment. This was mostly UK, Singapore, Turkey, US. Okay, so, okay, well, let's see what's going on here. Get this a little bigger. Hold on here. There we go. All right, so this is not that surprising. Risk-seeking young men under 35 are the main segment of the new Bitcoin investors, according to that report. Even more interesting, those newfound crypto investors aren't getting engaged in the idea of crypto because of any high-minded ideals of decentralized finance or breaking away from big banks, but because they're hoping to make bank after being suckered in with promises of big returns for minimal effort. Okay, parse this out a little bit. Yeah, not surprising that overall that would be the case. 35 risk-seeking young men, but and I also probably agree that they're not doing this or yeah for any high-minded ideals. They want to make some money. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't have any problem with that. But again, this kind of gets back to people's ignorance, and everybody has the opportunity to learn about crypto, like you and me and anyone that's watching this video. We all have the equal opportunity to learn about it, and you don't have to spend that much time to understand some basic truths. One, it's risky. Two, it's unregulated. But three, there is potential for profit and for good profit, right? But all three of those things, you have to take it all with a grain of salt. Kind of just, yeah, it's risky. Well, that doesn't mean that I should run away as fast as I can. No. Can you deal with logic and understand risk versus reward? Are you patient enough? And most of these 35 risk-seeking young men aren't. They're just winging it. They downloaded an app and they heard about it, and but that's part of the culture we live in. I mean, it's just like you hear something on the internet, boom, you go do it. I mean, people make millions of dollars just scamming people on the internet. Not even scams, just crappy products that you throw on the internet, and you're going to get somebody to pay attention to you. I don't know. I'm kind of rambling about this, but this is definitely a theme for today, and I don't mean it to be this way, but I guess I'm in that mood. It's just like, come on, people, like just think a little bit, take some time, be patient. Don't buy into all this government regulation crap, and if you're getting burned in crypto, it's because you're not paying attention. That's what I think.
Yeah, and if you look at this article and you're reading this and going, oh,
Yeah.
then that means that it's dangerous. Then that just kind of, I mean, no offense, but it does show the level of thinking that you're going into it with that is a reflection of what exactly is what we're saying. Like most people who win the lottery end up broke if you come from
Yep.
nothing. Like most people who are going to take anything and not have the education behind something, they're not going to know how to do it. I mean, it's not to mention that we had over the last couple of years, especially for that last bull run, a lot of pump and dumps. We had a lot of worthless coins out there, right? So that's the other thing. That era is kind of weeding. That's kind of over. We're kind of working through that, right? And I think that's where the benefit of the right regulation would come in is weeding out those worthless coins. I mean, people were like, oh, you can just go make your own coin and get people to invest in
Right.
it. And that was something that was happening. So it's
Yeah.
kind of all these different things like coming into one, a lot of different factors. And then, yeah, a lot of people that just are suckers for those things and it doesn't end well, rightfully so. But yeah, that's my rant for that part. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's good. All right. So it says this report did assume that users purchased Bitcoin when they downloaded a crypto app. That's my pet peeve. The Economist found that 73% of users downloaded their crypto app when the price of Bitcoin was rising, going above 20,000. And so if, for example, you bought $100 worth of Bitcoin every month for several months, then a median investor would have lost $431 or 48% of their $900. Okay. So let's parse this one out. All right, they're doing what I suggest people do, and that is dollar cost average into Bitcoin, let's say. Now, when I dollar cost average into Bitcoin, I don't think it's a magic pill that makes sure that I will be profitable. No, I'm looking at the averages. I'm looking at the odds. And since I know that Bitcoin is going to be volatile and go up and go down and go up and go down, I'm betting on the averages that I'm going to have a better average price because I'm buying low, basically. Yeah, I'm buying high also, but it's going to average out that if I just did what these people are saying here, and you buy when things are going up. So they FOMO'd in and got scared and either sold or they're just looking at this on their balance sheet or their portfolio, which I got to bring up because I always bring this up when I have the opportunity. You don't lose anything until you sell, right, Brianna? We talk about that all the time now. You don't lose anything until you sell. And so many people, even very well entrenched financial people or smart crypto people, still think that way. It was funny. I was talking to my dad about that, who's old time banker, right? And I was just trying to say this to him. He's like, yeah, but from his perspective, and I think from traditional finance, and this kind of opened my eyes a little bit, you're always looking at the balance sheet. You're always looking at what is your current net worth right now, and your net worth is calculated by the assets that you own, or that So if you have stock, that's an asset that you own, but yet it can fluctuate. So it's the time you look at that snapshot will detail what your net worth is, right? So like right now, a lot of people's net worth doesn't look pretty good, doesn't look very good on paper, but they're not going to sell. Why would they? I mean, they're going to sell now unless they absolutely have to. And that's just the minority of people that really have to sell today for whatever reason, emergencies or whatever, right? So I don't know. This is just how I view this. It's like I never view it like this. I never view my investments in crypto, especially because of the volatility. One minute things are great, the next minute they're bad. So if I'm going to sit there and worry about this, I'm going to be a basket case, right? So I just don't. I just know now. So there's that. That's long-term investing in crypto. So first of all, if I dollar cost average, I know I'm not FOMOing in. Now, it's not that I haven't done that on some other coins. I just bought an AI coin last month that had already gone up. I FOMO'd in, and it's way down now, $100, whatever. But generally with Bitcoin and my long-term investments, I dollar cost average in, and I'm not saying I would never FOMO. Like I want to throw in another couple thousand into Bitcoin or probably and Ethereum because it's going to pop pretty soon. And I'm like, yeah. So I still think this would be a really good move right now because it's still, I think, cheap compared to what it's going to be pretty soon, maybe by the end of the year. We'll see. So anyways, that just parsing out this statement about these people losing this, and again, you just look at the statistics, and it's true though. The reason I wanted to bring this up was like to just talk about it and kind of show, in a way it's kind of ridiculous, but it's also true. And the truth of it is, a lot of people don't think. They're not patient. They don't see this as an investment or a lifestyle. If this is a lifestyle for me anyways, for you, for a lot of people who are probably watching this, the crypto lifestyle, I don't know what do you want to call it, but we thoroughly believe in all aspects of it. You respect it. And you respect it because you understand it. You understand it's volatile. And you understand why it's volatile, because it's new. It's trying to replace thousands of years, hundreds of years of a financial system that's been embedded, right? I mean, so it's not that hard to get this, but you just have to slow down and be patient and figure out what you're doing here. Not just like, oh my God, I got to get in on this. I got to get in on this Bitcoin thing. And then when you do that, the odds are like this article. And unfortunately, this probably does show there's more people like this out there, unfortunately. But that's why we want to be here. And I probably have been a little too negative, shaming. I don't mean to do that. I really don't. But sometimes I get frustrated in stuff like this, articles like this. And I'm just like, it's not rocket science. Just slow down and be patient and just learn about it a little bit. And maybe we wouldn't have so much of this. But we do, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. Take a second to kind of grasp it for yourself. Don't chase headlines, but experience it. And you come around to understanding it. And then there's no going back.
Yeah. And, a lot of us in crypto are underwater or have been at one point, right? But we're not fleeing. We're not like screaming or saying we got ripped off or, that this bogus, because we took the time to understand it. We took the time to buy in, and we buy into it and we understand it. And, I'm just now in black numbers, finally, or green, or whatever you want to call it. I've been underwater for a long time, with my Bitcoin holdings and so on. And yeah, it feels good. But I really wasn't that worried when when it was down. I wasn't, because I know I'm in it for the long term. I know that for me, I'm going to learn more about it every day. The more I learn about it, the more I know about the market, the tokenomics, the how blockchains work, how psychological. I'm learning, like when you learn to trade, you really learn about human psychological behavior, because that's what markets are all based on. And I find that even fascinating. And as I learned that you look at all the numbers and the charts, but in reality, what those charts are showing you, like technical charts, are how have humans behaved in the past? How have they behaved, and why did they behave that way? Like, what was their thinking? And you begin to learn all those charts do is try to predict what may happen in the future based on what we've done in the past. And the cool thing about that is that if you were thinking that charts, and this is kind of how I used to think, that charts, technical charts, were all about the realities of the world, like what the economy was doing, what, how much money banks had, or how high inflation was, all that stuff. I used to think that that's what those charts represented. Now they kind of do, but all they really represent is what was the thought process in a trader's mind when they actually entered that trade and when they sold that trade. What were they thinking? That's what it is. It is fascinating. Yeah, all those things have a play because the economy, the inflation, all those things play into it. But overall, what's interesting about charting is, especially when you just look at simple things like support and resistance lines, right? Those are just imaginary lines that we draw on those charts, right? And yet, those lines that we draw are based on what people were thinking and how they behaved in the past, right? They all sold or bought at a certain level. And when you look at it, it's kind of fascinating. When you look at it over a year or more, and you can draw that like resistance line, you're like, yeah, boy, at this price, this psychological price, everybody sold. But what's even more interesting about it, and I'm still kind of formulating like how to deal with that, is the only reason that they did that, everybody sold because everybody was drawing that same line. Everybody had the same chart to look
Right.
at, right? And they
Right.
all looked at that line and they said, oh, it bounced off this resistance. So I'm predicting it will do the same thing in the future. So it's almost like, kind of like, well, what's the point? Because like, but here's the cool thing. Even though that happened, a lot of times it breaks through that resistance line, right? And so that's why you never know. And those are those intangibles. And so it's just interesting because I've been studying this lately, and I was studying about risk reward, right? And that a good trader is what this guy I'm learning from calls a probabilitist. So he looks at odds, just like poker players look at odds, and the casinos look at odds. The casino knows that the way the game is set up, that lots of customers are going to win and take a lot of money. But over time, the casino is going to win more often because they know the odds and the probability they'll win more often. So they just open up the doors, let people play. People walk out of there with millions, but more people walk out with a lot less money than they came in with, right? The same kind of thing can be applied to markets. You've got to know that no one really knows what's going to happen with the markets. Even though we think we can predict some of it, you see all the time. It breaks through these resistance lines, these things that happened in the past. And you never really know when they're going to happen. So the way to win is to play the odds. And those odds are never risk more than a certain limit of your total available investment stash. So if you got, $5,000, never put in one trade more than say 2% of that. So if the odds are that you lose, it's not going to break your bank, right? You're not going to be bankrupt. And then you also always want to have your risk be much smaller than your reward potential. So typically like a 3-to-1, 4-to-1, where you're risking maybe 2 or 3% to win 23, 24, 25%. So those are all the odds. So I just find it really interesting. I'm not actually trading with like money, but I'm learning it all and I'm preparing. But I'm coming at this kind of to bring it full circle to this whole conversation is I'm going slow. I'm being patient. I'm understanding the rules that I'm playing with. I'm looking at the odds and I'm looking at the probability. And only when I sort of have that figured out will I start to bet my real money. I say bet, but I think it's definitely it's different than gambling because you've got a lot more data to work with, like in investing, right, than you do with gambling. But basically, I guess if you put money on something and you don't know if you're going to win or lose, I guess then in a way that's sort of gambling. But this is a much more educated gambling, if you will. And there's lots of other factors that I could look into. Like when you're trading stocks, you do a lot of fundamental analysis, right, on the company, on lots of things like that. Crypto doesn't have quite as much of that, but you can look at all sorts of tokenomics, and if you're looking at Bitcoin, you can look at hash rate and all that kind of stuff to determine where the market's going. It's a little out there for me, but yeah, it's just it's not rocket science. I graduated with a degree in psychology. I became an engineer only because I was willing to learn. And I just said, look, I'm not going to go anywhere unless I learn these new skills and new tools. And that's sort of been my life. It's like, I can do anything if I just take the time to figure it out and learn it. And, everybody really has that opportunity. I think people get frustrated. They want to go too fast and they want it now. And, it takes me a long time to learn, but I know that I'm not going to move forward in life if I don't learn it. So for me, education and learning things is where it's all at. And I'm just using this example in crypto, because it pains me that so many people are afraid of it or don't want to touch it or think it's terrible or full of criminals. And it's only because they're just not taking the time to look at it, and they're missing out on so much.
Yeah, totally. And the compounding of those disciplines of utilizing the risk to reward, setting up your, like you said, like having your amount set that you're going to lose, willing to
Yeah.
lose, and what you're willing to gain, and having that actually set and compounding those wins and losses is always going to play out for most people much better than just throwing things at the wall and hoping that it sticks. And
Well, why don't
you know,
you go ahead and give us your thesis again, which I assume your book is kind of about. I know Brianna's writing a book. I've heard you say it before, and I really love it. The same things we just talked about are the way we can live our lives, right?
so the premise of my book is that self mastery is the cure for everything in the world today, and that the lack of it is the stem of all the problems in the world today. And really taking that responsibility and looking at ourselves as the asset. We invest in ourselves and we compound everything that we invest in ourselves for gains. I mean, that's the only way to get from point A to point B. And that can be accelerated in an upward trend. We're the trend line that can be accelerated if we continue to compound those small gains versus just having no plan, just not taking the time. A lot of that is that patience. We're psychologically, we're used to watching 8-second reels and we don't get past 16 seconds most of the time. And then we're on to the next thing where that's the way that our brains have been trained. So we have to break those cycles of those external conditions and really take the time to establish ourselves internally. It's really an internal game. And that's the psychology behind it as well. I mean, and that's going to change the market too. The market would change if we had most people acting in those ways. That would change so much of what we're seeing. That would change those numbers that you pointed out that the Bank of International Settlements came out with. But it's just a reflection. It's a reflection of where, and that's going to carry over wherever, whatever market we're looking at. That's not just going to be here. That's going to be in traditional finance as well, where people can't hold on to their money. That's not the problem. The money's not the problem. It's the root of the problem is the individual and how much they invest into their time in themselves.
Yeah, well, I love that. Have you thought about it? What just hit me here after I was talking about these charts is there a parallel to support and resistance lines in life? I was just kind of, have you thought through that? Because I have some thoughts here, but they're not percolated. What do you think about
I
that?
do. I have that in my book. I haven't decided whether or not I'm going to keep it in there or not, because I think for people who don't understand technical analysis
No,
that might be out there.
that's true. That's
So
true.
if it was a book that was completely on that, which I might do another one that's just completely the parallels drawn between being like investing and ourselves, where that support line and the resistance lines are an indicator. We keep ourselves in this comfort level. That's what I call like the in between those support and resistance. And it's really hard for us to break through that support line. Like we get to the level where we're like, okay, the situation's getting a little uncomfortable. I don't know if I'm brave enough to be able to go on to that next level. And we're so often going to stay within those lines, but it's when we decide to like have courage for the one instance and break through and be like, oh, okay. And finding familiarizing ourselves with the practice of, okay, that's how I broke through before. So let's break through that resistance again. And then you can continue to do that over time. This might not make sense to a lot of people. And then the support line too, that one's been harder to like kind of draw the parallel, but it is like we have a level of support. We hit kind of these lows in our life that we commonly go to this low and then we bounce back up. Sometimes we break through below that. When we hit like traumatic experiences, we go through things that really bring us down to those lows that's below our typical, brings us into our own bear market. And the more that we familiarize ourselves like in that bear market, the more likely we will go down to that bear market and we'll just keep going like lower and lower. So I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how
Well,
I
it does to
it.
me, and I think you're right. I think it could kind of get in the weeds there, but I really think it's interesting, especially for anyone that knows anything about investing at all, and a little bit about the trading. And you're right. probably, if you haven't seen it before, it probably doesn't make sense. But it is that sort of comfort zone, right? And so that there's this level right in between, right? You're in a comfort zone, you're in between. So you've got your support line that kind of keeps you from going too low, and then you got your resistance line that keeps you from going too high, and you just stay in that comfort zone. And charts do the same. Price kind of does that in the same way. I think it'd be interesting to explore that more. I'm really excited to read your book, because and I know it has a lot of those concepts. And yeah, maybe someday if yours isn't directly tied to investing in life, then yeah, maybe we'll collaborate on a book that's really tied to that. Because I do think that is fascinating. And I wrote a book called "Be the Hero of Your Life," which was basing our lives on the hero's journey. So there's 12 stages. So it's sort of a very linear kind of process to look at ourselves in our life, because you put yourself in the 12 stages of the hero's journey. This would be kind of like that in a way, because you've got this framework of charting and about investments, and about the end goal is to improve your life financially, I guess, right? Win more than you lose. And that can be said for life, and the parallels between being a trader or an investor and what you have to do to win more than you lose. Same thing in life, and putting those parallels together. I don't know how big our audience would be, but maybe, I don't know, there's a lot of investors and traders out there. They might find that interesting.
I think so. Yeah. It's always that niche. Yeah.
Cool. Cool. All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for today. Good show. I don't know, a little bit negative and sassy, but that's okay. Every once in a while, right?
I was sassy upon wake up today. I knew it was going to be a little bit of sassy. But you brought the sauce. Go Scott.
Yeah, right. Sassy.
I love the fire. Bring the heat.
Yeah, bring the heat. All right. Well, I'm going to take my little PEZ dispenser and go eat some Bitcoin PEZ. All right. Well, everybody have a good week. Thanks for tuning in. If you're on the replay and you're watching it, just say hi. Let us know what you liked, what you'd like to hear more about, what you thought about our T-shirts, anything. You name it. But thanks for watching. Thanks again, Brianna, for everything. Good show. And I guess we'll see everybody next week.
Yeah. Thank you, Scott. Thanks, everyone. And tune in live next Friday, noon. We'll see you then.
That's right. All right. Bye, everybody.